to Green America's Green Business Network's informal Zoom chat on green business pivots during the COVID economy. This is our second chat on the innovations that some of our Green Business Network members are pursuing in these challenging times in order to sustain their businesses, serve their customers and community, as well as to serve as a model and source of advice and inspiration for others. My name is Fran Teplitz, and I serve as the director of the Green Business Network. As a reminder, you can always reach us at gbn@greenamerica.org. And I'm pleased to welcome all of you and our speakers today. Please note that this chat is being recorded so that it can serve as a resource for those unable to join us right now. Also, please keep your mic muted until the end of the presentations. Then we'll take your questions or comments verbally or in the chat. You can access the chat box by clicking on the More buttons and selecting Chat. I'd like to open with what we at Green America refer to as an intention setting. It's a way to clear our minds from the demands of our inboxes and other pressures or concerns, even if just for a moment. So I invite you to sit up straight, take a deep breath, and think about the value of the following ideas from the author Phyllis Koldai, who wrote this on the occasion of her 58th birthday during this pandemic. Here's an excerpt. May we greet the sun each morning and rejoice in being alive. May we recognize all people as kin. May we gift one another with radical attention. May we help our society do better than it has done. May we dedicate our daily work to those we love and to the common good. May we sustain those workers whose invisible labor sustains us all. Thank you. So now it is my pleasure to introduce you to our featured Green Business Network members today. We'll hear from each of them, then open the mics at the end for your questions or comments, or again, you can type them in the chat. We'll then close with a final wrap-up and send-off by our board member, Julie Lineberger. Our speakers will embellish on their backgrounds at the beginning of their remarks. So starting off, we'll have Kathy Jentz, the editor and publisher of Washington Gardener magazine, followed by Gary Downing, the owner of Happy Happy Cleaning, followed then by attorney Mark Gay, who's president of Mark J. Gay PC. And as I mentioned, Julie Lineberger, Green America's board co-chair, who is also a Green Business Network member through LineSync Architecture and Wheelpad, will then close out our session today. So Kathy Jentz, over to you.
Thanks, Fran. I'm gonna share a quick PowerPoint. And let's start from the beginning of that slideshow. Can everybody see that? Thank you for having me today. I, as Fran said, am the editor and publisher of Washington Gardener magazine. We're all about local gardening here in the greater Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. And as many of you experienced this spring, we had some huge pivots to our business happening. So we came back, I take a couple bus loads of readers up to the Philadelphia Flower Show every year, and that takes place the first week of March. And that was on, I think, March 10th, a Wednesday, and came back to cancellation. Almost all of my spring talks, festivals, events that I would cover for the magazine and or be speaking at or have a booth at were quickly canceling and shutting down with the state-by-state rollbacks in our area. So I was profiled on Jonna Michelle Photography's blog about some of the things I went through this spring, and I encourage you to follow up and read that. She did a fabulous series of how people cope during COVID times, various small businesses and citizens, and she has a great spectrum of people on that. So definitely check out her Life in the Times of Coronavirus photo and essay series. But one of our things that we have at the end of every winter are 2 big seed exchanges. And I always end up with boxes and boxes of seeds from those seed exchanges. And then throughout the spring, I'm giving away those seeds to various community groups. At the festivals that I would be at my talks, I'm giving out seeds to everybody. And of course, those were all canceled. And my first thing was, I have a living room full of seed boxes. What am I going to do with all these seeds? They're doing me no good sitting here. I can plant some, but I can't plant, hundreds and thousands of these. They really need to get into people's hands so they can be growing this spring. So I started to put out feelers and emails and telling people they could send self-addressed stamped envelopes. And I got hundreds of requests for free seeds through my blog and my social media. So every Sunday, March, April, I was stuffing self-addressed stamped envelopes for seeds and sending them out to people. And then I thought, I still have tons more seeds. I really need to get those out into the community in a more splashy fashion, just to get them really out there. So I started to think about little free libraries and how there's usually a little free library in a lot of urban communities, and I wanted to get it really out to underserved communities who didn't even know that free seeds were available. So I contacted every little free library I could in the DC area. Several of them had shut their little free library during COVID because of concerns that you have to touch the doorknob, open it, touch the thing inside. So some are closed, and that was up to the individual owner of the little free library. Some had converted to adding food and other items to their little free library. And those are the particular ones that I partnered with and said, would you mind me dropping off a big giant baggie full of seed packs? And almost everybody was like, yes, please do. And a lot of the library owners themselves went in and got them. So here's a sample of one that I had dropped off, and we put a little note saying, take as many seeds as you want. Some people would take the whole pack. Some people would take a few seeds out and put them back in. So that was one way we got the seeds out quickly and dispersing them. So that network of little free libraries was a real great community connection and lifesaver. So the next thing that happened was I was inundated with hundreds and thousands of emails and calls and neighbors stopping by and saying, this year I want to start a garden. So due to COVID, and I guess one of the silver linings of it was people all of a sudden had the time. They didn't have an hour commute at the beginning and end of each day. They were at home, maybe they were homeschooling and wanted to partner with their children to grow something in the spring. So that was great to be able to share seeds with them, but also I put together a quick webinar on how to grow your first vegetable garden. So your first, we call it Victory Garden 2.0, and try to make it a more positive spin. I don't like the term COVID gardener. I think that's a negative spin on there. So just trying to get the word out on easy, simple things to grow edibles, particularly like radish, lettuce for the cool season in the spring, and then into summer, how you would transition. So I was busier than ever, even though I had almost every event I attend canceled, just handling all the new inquiries from local gardeners. And then the talks that I was scheduled started to move online. So for Brookside Gardens, a local public garden this June, I gave a talk that was scheduled to be on dealing with weeds in your garden. We maximized out and sold out immediately. We were their first online talk, and they were super happy about that. So then they were able to continue that series. And then other smaller groups, garden clubs that I talked to, they decided to do a hybrid. They would have me on a screen in front of me. So there would be, my laptop isn't quite on the table yet. The laptop would be there doing it on Zoom. And this is a big church plaza, and everybody is socially distanced and spaced out, has their masks on, and there's our Purell. So those who were comfortable and able to attend in person did. And those who had to do it via Zoom or were more comfortable at home, we were able to watch it via Zoom. The only drawback to this, of course, is weather. So only during nice weather months, would this happen to be a nice weather day. And then number 2, outside noises. And every single one of my outdoor talks that I gave this summer and fall, there was a mow and blow crew across the street, and you can't quite see them in this picture, but they're right there. So amplification with in this case, they gave us a church microphone and speakers was fabulous. So I would recommend looking into some of those outside speaker systems that you could use without, of course, blowing away the neighbors down the street. And then a lot of the open gardens I attended had been canceled, but a few still took place. And they did it with pre-reservations, which isn't normal for open gardens. Normally what you would do is anybody who wants to come through comes through. But this year, the few open gardens that happened, they did an online management system. And that's my time, but I'm going to go really quickly to, we were also able to have our DC plant swap in partnership with the U.S. National Arboretum and with social distancing. So that was fabulous. And we were actually able to weed a couple public garden areas, again, with social distancing and pre-planning and having a sign-up group in advance. And I was able, actually, with the extra time on each weekend, to launch our podcast this year. Yay! So I'm going to turn it back to, that's my contact information, but we can share that at the end during the photos. And I'm going to stop sharing and turn it back over to Fran.
Unmute. Okay. Kathy, that was wonderful. It's so inspiring, you know, to hear how you pivoted, you know, relying so much on in-person events and needing to touch things and then creating these ways where people could still maximize gardening potential. And we focus on gardening at Green America, proper ways of doing that through our Climate Victory Gardens program. And we've seen a tremendous uptick in people wanting to do precisely what you're talking about. So it seems that while the COVID situation clamped down on so much that was possible, in your situation also opened some opportunities, as you said, because people had some time that they'd never had before. And gardening as an activity that we do outside lends itself very naturally to social distancing. You don't have to be on top of each other. There are creative ways to distribute the seeds through the little library, so we're not on top of each other. So that's really brilliant. That's really heartening to hear. So Gary, I'm going to turn it over to you now. Gary Downing with Happy Happy Cleaning, based in Pennsylvania. And Gary, you're on mute. And I think you also wanted maybe to start with your video, if that's correct.
Okay. All right. I'm live now. Thank you. My name is Gary Downing. I'm with Happy Happy Cleaning. I'm based out in Pennsylvania, and I have a YouTube video that I just started a YouTube channel, and I like to have it played now so you can watch it. Let you know a little bit about me.
I'm Gary Downing from Happy Happy Cleaning, and I am the owner. And we make chemical-free cleaning products. And on this YouTube channel, we will actually teach others how to make their own. I have been in the cleaning industry for several years, and I have become a green cleaning expert. I actually was invited to speak in Nevada for a group called Artsy for the Convention Center back in 2017. And also in 2017, I spoke in New York at the largest green festival at the Javits Center in New York.
Also has whatever that quality is that kills germs.
Yes, yes it does.
Technically, you
vinegar itself has over 1,000 uses. I'll be up there till tomorrow morning telling you everything it does. I also teach a variety of different ways of using different things that we use every day. As far as fruit, believe it or not, yes, fruit that we eat, we actually can use to clean with it. And it's very effective. And even flowers, you know, how about that? It's amazing what you can do. But please subscribe. Please like and subscribe, and you will learn too. Oh, and never let me forget, I like to have a lot of fun. And yes, there will be some dancing in some of the videos. Just to forewarn you.
Do that again.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. After spelling ram, turn around. Hope to see you soon. Happy cleaning.
Thanks for sharing, Scott and Fran. Thank you so much for that. The little dance at the end, let me explain that to you for a little bit. I was doing a workshop in Pennsylvania, where I'm from, and it was for a women's group, and I was doing some dancing. I love to dance. Part of my, I incorporate dancing. So I'm gonna incorporate the dancing in the videos also to make it fun. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. But thanks for sharing. I really appreciate that. Once again, my name is Gary Downing. I'm Happy Cleaning. I'm based out in Pennsylvania. And I do commercial and residential cleaning. I make my own products, just as you've seen in the video. It's all natural, green. I'm Green Business Certified. Thank you, Green America. And also, my purpose is, it's a quite a few reasons. Number one, I have two beautiful kids. I have a boy who's 16. I have a daughter who'll be 12 in a couple of weeks. And I'm trying to save this planet. That's my job. That's my purpose. I'm trying to save this planet so they'll have a planet to live on. Thankfully, to the universe, it allowed me to see 50 years. Thankfully, I like them to see 50 and plus, and so would I. So I'm doing my job. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'll talk about that a little bit later also. One of the first cleaning commercials was Mr. Clean, believe it or not. You know, Mr. Clean with the bald head. I'm bringing that up because my daughter teased me and says I'm Mr. Clean, but I'm a new version of Mr. Clean. I like to call myself tall, dark, and happy. The business is called Happy Cleaning. My purpose is for doing the business is for, like, one, my kids. Second is my grandfather, who I never met. He died at the age of 48. He worked in a factory, and they said that he died because of the fumes, which was chemicals that he was breathing as he was working. So he basically died working. Well, whenever my time comes, I'm gonna die working, living my dream and my purpose by saving the earth, and also saving for my kids and everyone else. I'm also an empath. And I don't know if everyone knows what it is. An empath is a person who can actually, make a long story short, feel what another person's feeling just by being around them, and don't even have to know them. And the person don't even have to share any kind of information. I can pick out how they're feeling, good, bad, or indifferent. That's a gift. It's a long-term gift. That's another talk. But the reason why I'm bringing this up to you today is because when I'm cleaning and I'm using natural cleaning products that I make that's already here and from the universe, I actually feel connected to your universe. I feel connected to the planet. I feel that's my purpose, the connection. And the connection is for me to do my part and save everyone who wants to be saved, and teach others how they can do for themselves. So that's my purpose. Far as the COVID situation, how I affected, I've had employees. I'm a solo cleaner now, but I'm getting back to, and I'm explaining this to you in a little while, I'm getting back into hiring more people because of the COVID situation. When it happened in March, the first shutdown, national shutdown, a lot of people didn't want people in their homes, not even to clean. Everybody was scared, which is understandable. And a lot of people didn't want a crew in their house, maybe like one person, two people over time. We're getting back to having people becoming more open to having cleaners in their home because they start to realize the importance of it and why it's important. And also, but we're about to shut down also again, so it creates another issue. But whenever we go back to being more open, I'll be ready, because I'm putting the crews together. We're going to training now, and like I said, I got to do my job, and I can't let nothing stop me. And I hope and pray that no one ever lets things stop them. You gotta find a way to make it happen. Whatever your purpose is, find a way to make it happen. But how I pivot, believe it or not, one of the reasons why I started doing the videos, I had so much doing workshops, talking to people. But like I said, just like the previous speaker said, a lot of things were shut down. You couldn't do it no more. So I started doing videos. And so I started a YouTube channel. I started posting videos on my social media, on Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok. You do a lot of dancing on TikTok. But I, believe it or not, it's helped me out so much doing videos. I have had people, how it benefited me was people are calling me from out of town in the surrounding areas, outside of Pennsylvania, where I'm at. Do you come to this location? I was not even thinking of it. But now, believe it or not, if they're reaching out to me, this must be part of my mission. And I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try to make it happen. It's because of video they seen of me. Sometimes I'm just being funny and I'm cleaning. Sometimes I'm actually teaching, and sometimes I'm teaching and being funny. But the bottom line is I make them think. And what I do, the channel is all about how you can do it yourself. You can make your own cleaning products. You have the stuff all around your house, and you don't have to run to the store. You can make your own stuff at home while you shut down. While it's shut down, you can watch it on your favorite TV show. It don't even take that long to do it, and it's fun. And it's a great activity for the kids, and you're great something to do for the whole family. So this is another thing I added to my business, and it's already helped. And I am just getting started. What you just watched earlier from Fran and Scott was that was just a trailer of what's going to be coming in the future of so many other videos. It'll start kicking off in January. And one thing I would recommend to people, honestly, whatever business that you're in, I would recommend you doing videos. You can make it funny. You can just make it about yourself. You can just make it about your daily life, whatever. But see, people, even during the shutdown, people are they're going to go to social media. People who are not into social media are most likely going to go. Now, this is your time to capture a lot of people, as many as you can, people you never would have thought of. Just like I told you before, I am a cleaning company, but I am capturing people out of Pennsylvania that want me to come. I'm pretty sure they got other cleaning companies in there, wherever they're at, but they're calling me. I think that's amazing. That shows the power of social media. And what it is, the way I look at it, it's the 24/7 commercial that you just put on live. You put yourself live 24/7 for free. You didn't have to pay. And people go watch it over and over and over. And then on top of it, they can share it. No matter how profound or funny you make it, they can share it. And the thing is, this is what makes you more profitable, and it puts you in touch of people. Because people are looking for ways, because if they're shut in, they're looking for ways to connect with others. And this is a way that you connect. I have people sitting waiting for a video, waiting for my next video. They're asking for it. And then I had one lady who actually said to me, who I have not met, she reached out to me on social media and said she has an illness. And she says, you don't know how much your videos mean to me. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Talking about being in touch as an empath, I'm like, I would have never thought I'll be touching people's lives who are shut in and not feeling well. And you're actually looking forward to a cleaning video? But this is the power that we all can be in, not just me, all of us. And it's enough market out there for everybody. Trust me, I'm not trying to have it all by myself. I would love to, but I'm not a selfish person either. And I don't want it all by myself, but this is enough for everybody. And this is our part of doing our part, really, making lives better for people without even knowing them or seeing them or even touching, because believe me, you are going to touch someone. Let's make it happen. So if I have any advice, that's my strongest advice I can give you, to at least try it. And let me tell you something, you don't even have to be perfect. And to be honest with you, if you have bloopers, it shows people that you're real. You can put that at the end of your video, and just make people laugh and feel good. And your video will be as serious as all get out, but making people feel good and laugh. And this goes across all kinds of businesses. It doesn't have to be cleaning. It doesn't have to be law. It doesn't have to be gardening or anything like that. It doesn't matter what it is. People, especially at these times, this was since day one, but especially now, people need to be touched positively some kind of way, and they're crying for this. And it doesn't matter what age, the race and color, like, does not matter. People need to be touched in a positive way. And here we are. And this is our opportunity to do it.
That is terrific.
Right now. Yeah. To be that green light for the world.
Great.
We are Green America for a reason. So I wanted to end for that. So I wanted to thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. I hope I was able to help someone. And thank you, Fran. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Green America. And we have, I think, like 2 more speakers, and they're excellent also. And I came with what they wanted to share. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Gary, that was terrific. So Gary, our non-toxic Mr. Clean, right?
Yes.
It's great to hear your pivot around the do-it-yourself cleaning products, teaching others. And as you underscored, when we can't connect in person, you're building out videos to maintain that connection. You're prepping yourself with future employees so that when there is an opportunity to reopen, you can seize that moment and push forward. And I love what you said towards the end about how the videos in your YouTube station is basically your own free advertising agency. And so maybe more people can think about that, especially with diminished funds maybe and marketing budgets and that kind of thing. How can the online world promote your product or service? That's terrific. So next we're going to hear from attorney Mark Gay. Thank you, Mark. You can unmute yourself. Mark's going to share some advice. He's written extensively on business pivots and kind of the mindset, a bit of the psychology that we have to keep in mind during these tough times. Over to you, Mark.
Oh, thank you, Fran. And thank you for those inspirational words of wisdom from Kathy and Gary. I saw a bumper sticker the other day. I live near the New Hampshire border, north of Boston, and the bumper sticker, New Hampshire's logo is live free or die. But I saw a bumper sticker that said live green or die. And maybe I'm the last person to ever see that bumper sticker, but I thought that was a really neat idea to start peddling live green or die as an alternative to the Revolutionary War live free or die logo. My background is, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. What I'm going to be focusing on today is decision making, which is, Gary brought up a little bit about that. And as he was saying, what he was using the internet for was to make people think. And so that's what I do for a living in the world that I live in. But to just step back a little bit, my story is when I went to college, went to law school, paid for everything myself. But when I got out of, my specialty was energy and environmental law, and my goal was to save the world. And when I got out, my first bill I got from my first bill I got from both college and law school, I went from trying to save the world to saving myself very quickly because I needed a real job and had to pay for all that 7 years of education. So I went to work for the United States Department of Energy, and it was in compliance work dealing with oil companies, regulatory compliance. If you're living, so you know, if you're living down in the Southwest in Oklahoma or in Texas, and your job is to sue oil companies, you basically live the life of being in a pandemic all the time. You don't get invited to many parties. Needless to say, you don't have a social life. And I went from there to come back to the East Coast, and I worked for the Navy Strategic Systems systems. And so I picked up that background, the concept of strategy. And then I went from there to work for high-tech companies. And so I put it all together when I opened up my own law firm representing companies to focus on the way they think, because when you're working for the Navy, they think a certain way. When you're working for the Department of Energy, they think a certain way. When you're working for high-tech companies, they think a certain way. So I was getting these kind of balcony views of all these different approaches to things. And when I started representing smaller companies, I started to try to bring that approach to the people I was representing. I represent about 20, 25 corporations right now, companies. The point is that one thing I learned from the Coast Guard, I was also the chairman of the board of the Custom House Maritime Museum with the birthplace United States Coast Guard. Their slogan is Semper Paratus, which basically means always prepared. So the point is, you can't predict the future, you can only prepare for it. So when they train people in the Coast Guard, it's the concept of always being prepared for no matter what ever happens, but you don't try to predict the future. So when I work with my clients on three basic concepts, on risk, on compliance, and on sustainability. In terms of risk, now it's hard getting people's attention to deal with risk, but now I don't have to worry about that anymore. I don't have to describe what risk is. People now know what risk is. All of a sudden they don't skip over that whole thing. Let's go right to the how. And so how do you deal with risk? One thing I start with to help people think differently is to focus on what they call divergent and convergent thinking. When you're dealing with risk, the goal is to put divergent thinking is to put everything on the table. Put as many things on the table as you think that could possibly knock your company over, like you're playing a game of chess and somebody knocks over one of your pawns or one of your knights or queens or kings. Once you put everything on the table, then you convergently with your team narrow it down to the top priority risks that may affect you right now. And Gary brought up a whole bunch of them. You have, so I don't need to go into specific details, but the biggest mistake people make between that divergent and convergent thinking is in the actual divergent thinking where they don't put enough possibilities on the table. So if you were during divergent thinking last year, you probably didn't put on the table of things that might knock your company out a worldwide global pandemic. It probably wasn't on the table and probably wasn't discussed by 99.9% of the people. But what we did discuss with some of my clients is, can you survive 1 year after taking an enormous, what they call a black swan risk management hit? Can you survive 1 year? So we focused on that, and we never could fill in what it was going to be, but if it was something as massive. So here we are today, and so I'm still addressing that. So the do part of that is when I meet with clients, I talk about thinking divergently and then thinking convergently, and don't forget that one possibility that might totally knock you out, which is why you have to put everything on the table. Here's what you can't do or shouldn't do. Right now, when you deal with people who are making decisions, it's called bounded rationality. Okay, so an example of bounded rationality is most people act very rationally, but it's bounded. Okay, and so one example would be what they call a single action bias. If I do single action bias, it's just a fancy expression meaning if I just do this one thing, it's going to solve all my problems. And the answer is it's not true. There are a lot of things, like Gary just brought up and Kathy just brought up, tons of things that they've done to solve their problem. And it wasn't one thing. So the first thing you have to do is get away from the concept of a single action bias. The second thing I focus on with clients is what they call intentional ignorance. And intentional ignorance is refuse to admit that there aren't black swan things out there that'll knock you over. There are. And so my point is with my clients is to get beyond intentional ignorance, saying, oh, that happened to Kathy or that happened to Gary, but it's not going to happen to me. Somehow you have this sort of exceptionalism that your business is going to be protected, but Gary's business is going to take a hit, Kathy's business is going to get hit, but not you. No, it will. It's just a question of time where something is going to knock you over, and that's where real management, real leadership comes up. So the next thing I focus, so the first thing I focus on, just to recapture that, it's about risk. Second thing I focus on is compliance strategy. Compliance strategy is about not just doing it like the Nike expression is, but just doing it right. Okay. And so in order to do that, when you're setting up an organization, focus on choosing advisors and not vendors. Okay. A vendor relationship is a contract relationship. It's extremely transactional. An advisor relationship is what you want to be with your customers and with your stakeholders. So focus on being establishing some sort of a relationship-based, fiduciary-based relationship with both your inside team and your outside team. In the corporate world, I deal with fiduciary law a lot. I spend a lot of time talking about that. But the name of the game is try to be an advisor. As Gary was bringing up, he's an advisor. As you know, Kathy was talking about, she became an advisor. Okay. Talk about building.
About 1 more minute. Thank you.
Sure. What? I'm sorry.
About 1 more minute.
1 minute?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the final thing is sustainability. And sustainability, if you tie into the UN SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, well, tie into the SDG Academy and focus on not just environmental issues, because too often people associate green with environmental, but focus on the larger 17 SDGs, okay? So, and one piece of advice, a practical piece of advice that I use is a concept called EDGE strategy. There's a book by Lewis and McCain called EDGE strategy. So once you identify your core of what you're good at, then also look at your edge, okay? An edge strategy is where you'll make your money. An easy way to remember that is if you go into an Apple store, all the stuff on the table is what their core strategy is, all their computers and everything. It's the stuff on the wall is their edge strategy, and they make a ton of money on that edge strategy. So focus on your edge strategy. And I think that the name of the game is focus on range and broaden the range of your company to look at those edge strategies and see what else you can do with your people, your place, your partners, and your pathways. So thank you very much.
Wow, that was really terrific. Mark Day, thank you so much for giving us this strategic framework. It's so helpful. Again, just like a little recap, thinking about how we change our minds to be able to accept new thinking, the importance of setting priorities, looking at new possibilities that we never thought we would have to consider, new approaches to problem solving, especially the idea that there's no one single silver bullet. You know, there's not just going to be one thing that's going to save the day, even though we wish that were the case, right? This idea about being an advisor so that you have a deeper relationship with your customer base and other stakeholders, and edge strategies about broadening your scope. I mean, I think you're right that it's this whole package that we need to see, especially our small businesses survive, underscoring what you said about sustainability being at the center and maintaining that.
And one thing, Fran, about what you do, you know, since I teach law as part-time in BU Law School, I take the Green America magazine and I bring it in to my class and I use those as case studies. So I'm repurposing all your green magazines.
That is fabulous to hear. Thank you. That is
You're welcome.
Great. Thank you, all of our speakers. This has just been phenomenal. Let's see if anyone online has a question or a comment to share with any of our presenters today. This isn't mandatory, but if there's a question, a thought, a reflection that you'd like to share in the chat, we welcome that. And Scott Kitson is also able to unmute the mics if anybody online would like to speak up. We'd love to hear from you.
This is Kathy. And I was going to ask Mark maybe to talk a little bit more about the EDGE strategy. So those would be things that I guess some of us, we would say peripheral to our main mission.
Right. Okay, sure. So once you, I mean, in fact, what Gary was talking a lot about EDGE strategy, who's actually doing it, you know. But one of the things I was doing is give you just a lot of examples. One example is Clay Christensen, who's a very famous professor at Harvard MBA school. And he wrote a famous book about how do you define your life. But one of the funny things, I mean, I can't, obviously that's a whole different subject for another day, but the point is that he gave an example once of a case called the milkshake strategy, the milkshake question. And anybody ever study that? Where some of the, it was like a McDonald's selling a milkshake. They sold them in the morning and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the point was that everybody looks at milkshakes as, okay, you either want to drink a milkshake or you don't. But he found out that the people who buy milkshakes in the morning are buying a liquid breakfast to go on a 1 hour, commute to work. People buying milkshakes at 3 o'clock in the afternoon were for children who are just going to or coming from a sporting event. And so by differentiating, it's still the same milkshake, but it solved the problem, two different problems at two different times of the day. So if you think about where products or services as solutions to people, they might be a product or a service to you, but they're solving a problem to other people, and they solve different problems, type of thing. So the point is, take a look at milkshakes not as a one-off product, but rather what does it solve? What problems are it?
Then Julie, why don't we turn it over to you? Thank you for closing out our session today. And again, we at the Green Business Network can be reached at gbn@greenamerica.org, and our website is greenbusinessnetwork.org. Over to you, Julie.
So, yes, there we go. I think Scott was going to just put up a picture or two. There we go. So this is one of my businesses that we had to pivot. Wheelpad makes accessible spaces for people to live, work, and play in. My first business is an architecture business, and this is our second business, Wheelpad. And what we found is that with COVID, our architectural business was floundering because people no longer wanting to use build large corporate headquarters because they're finding out that people are just as productive from home, and or ski resorts, which was another one of our key things. But our second business, which we built for our godson, we started this business, who became quadriplegic shortly before his 26th birthday. And what it is you can make an addition to a home within a week. So if someone has mobility issues, then they have an accessible place to live that through that door directly across from the porch there attaches to an existing home. Well, during COVID, we found that everyone wanted to get their loved ones out of nursing homes. So we did a total pivot from focusing on architecture to focusing on marketing, not necessarily to spinal cord injured people, which we continue to do, but also to seniors, people who are in nursing homes, people who are in rehab facilities just because they didn't have an accessible place to go home to. So that was an interesting thing that ties in with what Kathy, Gary, and Mark were all saying. I think there's a theme that comes through here. One I've heard from everybody is the importance of planning. And you can get rid of that now, Scott. Thank you. I just wanted people to know what I was talking about. The importance of planning. We are all so busy working in our business, doing this, doing that, that we don't work enough on our business. And everybody has said one of the benefits of this time is working on our business. And it's even my architecture business has been 30 years, but Wheelpad's only 4 years old. So I really am learning that it's just as important, not learning, but practicing. It's just as important to work on your business as it is in your business. I liked the ideas of both Gary and Kathy were talking about pivoting to virtual. which is something that people, the younger generation is right there. So this gave us a time to get there, to learn about virtual things and what we can do. I also like, Kathy, you're keeping your list of what help people can do in the future. Like, oh, if you're going to do something outside, think of amplification. It wasn't something that I would have thought that before. And the special marketing that both, well, that everybody, Gary, Mark, and Kathy talked about for your particular issue. Starting a YouTube channel is fantastic. I actually did that during COVID as well. And following leads. Gary, when you were talking about that, which is exactly the same as Mark, you're following leads that you didn't maybe know you would ever go to, as Mark did, to go through all these different countries. And that to me gets down to something else that Mark brought out more than anyone is, you know, in this day and age, we're all talking about JEDI. We're talking about justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is great. But we have to remember to use that, as Mark said, in our diversity of thought. When we gather people together, it can't just be our friends who think like we do. We want to get people that are way out there that will bring in something that I wouldn't think about, because that also helps us. So I think that helps us broaden our range and all that sort of thing. So I am thrilled to be part of this group of Green Business Network. It is something that brought me to Green America when it was Co-op America. And I think all the businesses, no matter how large or small, have a lot to learn from each other. No matter how new or how experienced, such as Mark. And it's fantastic that we have these conversations, and I hope they continue. Thank you very much to Fran and Scott for organizing this. And I will put my little wheel pad and my Line Sync architecture websites on the chats. Thank you all for coming.
That's wonderful. Thank you again for joining. Look in your inbox for your Connections e-newsletter. Stay in touch with us, greenbusinessnetwork.org, gbn@greenamerica.org. And we look forward to closing out this very challenging year of 2020 together, Build Back Better in 2021. Look forward to working with you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Fran.